a very, very exciting update that I was elated to see. This has been a big, big problem for people getting access to HBAR. We know that, hey, it's great that, HBAR is available on Coinbase and all these different types of things, but in a weird way, accessing HBAR and different assets in New York for some reason was very difficult. And this is something I've heard commonly is there are a lot of people that are HBAR bearings that are located in New York, and it's been tough to get HBAR. And these are for all sorts of different purposes. But Coinbase Assets announced that for New York users, they're now going to be able to purchase render, HBAR, and other assets. And this is fantastic and exciting for, there's my tweet, and exciting for the ecosystem. This is something we've been talking about. These are baby steps towards getting Hedera to be more accessible to more people. Obviously, New York is an important place, but there's still more work to be done. I'd encourage people to go back and listen to the past 2 episodes on that, because there's a lot of different fascinating stuff shared. That I encourage people to go check out. Also, leave a comment if you're watching. What is the top stories that you've been seeing, and we'll talk about them. Also, too, this was really great. SaucerSwap integrated Wallet Connect recently, which was just added. And this is really great because what this allows for is a more seamless way to access SaucerSwap using different Hedera wallets, right? Like HashPack, Blade, Kabila, but also wallets outside of the Hedera ecosystem. SaucerSwap also supports MetaMask. So like the number one DEX on Hedera is now more accessible than ever for people. And it's been really great being a part of the Hedera Wallet Connect initiative through Hgraph. That's been an ongoing journey working collaboratively with DEXs and wallets. And I think that, some exciting stuff is coming, but some hard work's being done. And, I'm working away on stuff behind the scenes and having some important convos. So hoping to have more of these kind of cool updates for Wallet Connect. But shout out to the SaucerSwap team. And that's just incredible. This is also something that I'm very, very excited about. And I mean, we've talked everybody's ear off about this. And Brandon, the HBAR Bull, has done an incredible job of covering this. I had the pleasure of meeting these guys last year, but Neuron is now live in the USA in beta. And this is incredibly exciting because Neuron is developing this protocol that is connecting everything. And what I mean by that is right now, you can track flights and different things, but you think of like a delivery app, you think of the weather, you think of all of these different trackable, traceable data points that you want to capture. And the sensors or devices or endpoints required to get that information. And so Neuron has done a really incredible job over the past few years of laying this out, securing funding to do that. And now going live. And what this means is that there is now a live protocol in beta that is feeding data through, giving people access to real-time data in a decentralized way. Like these are people that literally had sensors shipped to their homes and set them up on their roofs and are feeding data into this protocol. And as Neuron has said, if for some reason Neuron were to disappear or go out of business or whatever it might be, this protocol kind of lives on. That's the goal of it. It's supposed to be another layer, and it's leveraging Hedera. And when you really think about how these events and pieces of information are logged on the Hashgraph, and how much data there is, you start to think about the transactions and what that could mean. And again, we've talked about this on the show extensively, so make sure to go back and listen to that. Again, Brandon, the HBAR Bull, has done an incredible job of hammering this story. And on his recent episode, he actually highlighted quite a few things from it. But the news here is this thing we've been talking about forever is now live. And it's just, again, it's amazing to see. And I'm just looking here in the Reddit comments, and yeah, I think this is truly a champion story. I think there's a lot of FUD around this early on, and there's just a sense of like, this is an incredible use case that's live right now and really pulled through. So, I mean, huge shout out to the Neuron team And it's really, really, really exciting. Give us Grelf. Well, hey, if Grelf or anyone else wants to call in, I don't play, I haven't been planning any guests stopping by. Usually, like most people just call in and have, good chats. It's funny too. Like, the last few conversations I've had, with Jake and also Grelf on the show, like people have really, really enjoyed that. I think that the live nature of this show and now it being video and not just a Twitter Spaces, it's definitely changed how I do things and how I talk about the news and how I have conversations with people, which I think is really great. The clips are good. People love the clips and everything. So yeah, if Grelf or anyone else wants to call in, feel free to call in. Another update that was kind of cool to see is, again, a story that's kind of ongoing that we've been talking about quite a bit. I had John Wingate on the show recently, but BankSocial launches real-time payment service integrating credit unions with the real-time payment network. So this is right in line with what BankSocial has been talking about, and more generally what kind of the crypto ecosystem has been talking about, which is this push and pull between taking decentralized crypto assets and packaging them in traditional finance packages, right? Like an ETF or different things like that. And then also taking traditional assets and packaging them in crypto form, right? Like we've seen with Arcax, tokenizing BlackRock funds and funds from Aberdeen, money market funds on Hedera and other networks too. So there's this kind of push and pull between those two things. And in the middle of that is the actual infrastructure and the rails of payments. So not just baskets of assets, but actual how payments are done. And, if you've been following along with the BankSocial story, BankSocial is definitely, from the Hedera purview, is at the forefront of that. And so it's been an interesting project to watch kind of unfold, and some good conversations with John Wingate. And I think it's one of those projects that, from a Web3 sense, from like a Web3 native sense, I don't think will kind of land yet. It's approaching it from kind of the other side, right? It's credit unions. It's building new tools for customers. It's kind of what Lehman would talk about when he's like, people are going to use Hedera and they're not even going to realize they're using it. This is kind of one of those things where if you have your bank app and you're looking at it, you've got your currency, your car loan, your mortgage, and your checking account, saving account, you got your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, your this, your that. And then it's like, oh, and my loans are NFTs. And so that's what we talk about when we talk about tokenization, is these are those first initial baby steps. So shout out to BankSocial. They're on that. Also too, talking about, these real world assets, RWAs are kind of all the rage. And something that I think Hedera and this ecosystem has really been championing for a long time, but I think has gone out of the forefront a bit, but I think is going to have some surprises for people, is the ESG stuff, the carbon offset stuff. And I know we talk about the Guardian and we talk about all sorts of different things in the Hedera ecosystem, but one project that has been around since before Hedera existed and has pivoted in so many kind of interesting and surprising ways is Dovu. And Dovu has recently announced that they have a new Hedera improvement proposal. And if approved, it will enable us to place these NFTs on existing marketplaces like CentX, so they can be traded by projects and individuals. So this is really big. And I want to just unpack this for a second, because I want this to really kind of hit people. I'm not going to talk your ear off again about the carbon offset stuff. I mean, we know that companies like Microsoft have stated there aren't enough quality carbon credits in the market for them to offset their carbon. There just isn't enough. And the carbon offset market is just so full of greenwashing and BS. It really is kind of a shady, dirty market. And what projects like the Guardian or Dovu and leveraging Hedera is, what they're focused on is bringing transparency, bringing trust to that business that has a huge demand. There just is not the supply. And so what Dovu has been focusing on is kind of nurturing that supply side, making it easy for all of these ecological projects like farmers or whatever it might be to issue those carbon credits, inject that supply for the market, and then match that with buyers. And so if we look at this market, it is going to be a massive market. I mean, the numbers have been shared over and over and over again. It's something we've been talking about in Hedera for years. But what makes this really interesting is that when you really kind of pull back on this, you go, okay, well, what are we actually talking about here? Carbon offset credits, the new age of digital carbon offsets. What are these on Hedera? These are NFTs on Hedera. And a good example to kind of articulate what Dovu's hitting on here about, where CentX comes into this is, and I've had Matt, the CTO of Dovu, on the show a few times, and always a, mind-blowing conversation. But one of the things that we touched on that relates to this is, if you look at the solution and the initiative they have right now, with India has an initiative, and the government of India has an initiative where they want to take millions of internal combustion engine cars and get rid of those and introduce more EVs into the market. And how you do that is through a carbon offset initiative. We know this through seeing the growth of Tesla, and we also see the issues with this in this kind of opaque, shady market. Well, what Dovu's doing is by issuing these as NFTs on the immutable hash graph, what's happening is someone in India can take their internal combustion car, they can get a carbon credit from the government for that, and then they can take that carbon credit and they can use it to put towards a new vehicle. And so that's really exciting. And what makes it even more exciting, and again, where kind of these NFT marketplaces come into it, is that more generally, if you have these carbon credits floating around and you have them for sale on the Dovu marketplace, let's say, you really think of that as like an NFT launch pad, right? Like an NFT drop. It's like this farm or this government or whatever has issued X amount of carbon credits. They're up for sale. And you can view it as almost like an NFT drop, because if you purchase those carbon credits as NFTs, and then you can list them on CentX, it really starts to bring a whole new way of looking at utility for NFTs. And when you really open it up even bigger, you realize that, the buyer of this NFT that I bought on the secondary marketplace is maybe not going to be just another collector or another HBAR barbarian. If I hold this thing, it might end up being, Microsoft or a car company or somebody that wants to reach into that supply. And that's where we have the ability to have that price discovery for these assets. So long, short, this HIP, it creates a situation where, folks can get in early on these drops of carbon credits as NFTs and have that supply. And there are enterprises and all sorts of other entities out there that want that supply or will want that supply of carbon offset credit. They've made that clear. And some folks might have those, and they might be, an attractive asset to companies. So it kind of flips your brain a bit to go, oh, these NFTs that I buy in the future, the buyer of those NFTs, if I sell them, might be, a Fortune 500, might be somebody on the governing council that wants to take that carbon credit and sequester it or exchange it or burn it or whatever for the purposes of offsetting their carbon. So that's really cool. And that's what this HIP is about from Dovu, is kind of creating that next step in this. And to be honest, like empowering the Hedera community to kind of get in early on this stuff. I mean, the bottom line is, people will get rich on the tokenized carbon offset space. It's a huge business. It's a nasty business. And this new technology is going to make it brand new. And a lot of companies are very excited about that. And a lot of companies are doing this currently. And Hedera is the best technology to do that. So that's very exciting. Not financial advice. I know I said people will get rich, but I mean, you get what I'm saying. When these new paradigm shifts happen, whoopsie, people end up making a lot of money. And this time around, because it's not a shady business, we got a fighting chance, so I think it's a good thing. Yes, the dog is taking a nap. She is napping. Georgia is napping. Sometimes the droning on about technical hedera things puts her to sleep, but her ears perk up when I talk about NFTs and stuff like that. So I think she knows what's going on. Okay, so what else is going on? Oh, this was really cool. I'm digging Hashnels. I like if anyone's been keeping up with the Hashnel stuff, it's about writing files to the hash graph itself through sequential HCS messages and all that kind of stuff. I've had patches on the show. We've talked about it at length. A lot of people are aware of Hashnels now. This is just kind of a quick, plug, shameless promotion. This was so good to see. There's the Defiance project from NFTier and Cantor. And there's actually now a Hashgraph Enthusiast trait for this project. You can see the little button there. There's my face. And the saying that I say at the end of each episode, hello future, goodbye past. Super cool. I mean, it's kind of crazy to see this show kind of immortalized as an NFT in a way. So that was really, really cool. Also too, just on the security front, I know at the beginning of the show, we were talking about like this stuff going on with Hedera with their marketing email and that issue and everything like that. This was actually really, really interesting to see. So a big problem in the ecosystem has been, for example, in a wallet like HashPack, you'll get these little tiny HBAR transfers that include malicious memos, right? So you'll get, basically how it works is a scammer or whomever will say, I'm going to send these, 50,000 wallets. I'm going to send them 0.0001 HBAR, tiny little amounts. I'm going to send it all to them, but I'm going to include a link in the memo that says, hey, there's an airdrop, or go to this website and get your 5,000 HBAR or whatever it is. And unfortunately, people will see that as like, oh, it's an official promotion, and, have a bunch of their assets stolen essentially. So HashPack has put in, this transaction memo contains a URL, which might be malicious, those different types of things, but it's very annoying and everything like that. So this is really cool. CTO of HashPack, Pluto, responded to this just, hours ago. And he says, this is in the next patch. So what it sounds like is this problem is going to get a lot easier to deal with in the next patch of HashPack, which I really appreciate, because now more than ever, we really, really need to focus on security, and clearly, Hedera does as well. And I think it's just a time to take that as a signal as individuals, as investors ourselves, to really take a look and kind of go, what are my security practices? Where are my private keys? What is my plan for if this or that happens? Because the reality is, like, a lot of people have a lot of money tied up in this stuff. So you don't want to be messing around at all. Also too, this was cool to see, but again, really raises the sense of urgency for these types of things for Hedera. So the Algorand Foundation announced that USDC on Algorand is live on on Coinbase. And kind of what does this mean? So as we know, there is USDC minted on all sorts of other networks. And we know that people call it HUSDC on Hedera. And very similar to Algorand, they have their own version of USDC. But the USDC that's on Hedera, again, isn't very accessible. When we talk about, Hedera assets on Coinbase or on this, exchange or that exchange or this exchange, we're usually talking about HBAR. We're not really talking about any other token. And it's been amazing to see other HTS tokens like PAC and Sauce and Grelf starting to get listed on centralized exchanges. That's very, very important. But what's arguably just as important is USDC, right? The liquidity of USDC is very small on Hedera, and as we talked about in previous episodes, that's a big thing that enterprise wants. They want TVL, they want liquidity, they want that kind of stuff, and it's just not accessible for people on Hedera now. So you can't buy Hedera USDC on Coinbase, and now you can buy Algorand's. And so this is again another signal to the ecosystem that, hey, now is really the time to take this seriously and start thinking about, of course, getting these Hedera native assets like HUSDC on these other exchanges, but more importantly than that, on the DeFi side as well, right? How great would it be if HUSDC or if HBAR or if Sauce or if Dovu or if HSuite or whatever it is, if those native HTS assets were also just natively available on DEXs elsewhere across crypto, that would also be great. So I think that's a big talking point in the ecosystem for people right now, which is, we need this stuff to be accessible. And the numbers show that. There's a direct correlation between the price of a token and the total value locked of a token and the market cap of a token. There's a direct correlation between those things and the amount of exchanges that it's listed in, right? So the market cap and TVL of HBAR is lower because HBAR is listed in less places than other assets. There's less HBAR pairs. And that's really the key thing you can't get around. So that's been a big topic for folks in this ecosystem, is that accessibility for HBAR. That has been a really, really, really big thing. This was also very cool to see. This is another post here from Hedera. So Hedera posts on X, "We are excited to support the Linux Foundation's intent to form Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust, which will encompass the growing portfolio of Hyperledger projects and support a rapidly growing decentralized technology landscape." And this was really, really, really good to see, because the Linux Foundation is like very important in the open source software development world, of course. And in the article that was shared, so there's is this the link to the article? No, it's just an image. Oh, there it is. So there's this article, the Linux Foundation, right? Big deal, right? This is the real deal here. And there's these quotes from different leaders. And if I search Charles Aikens, oh, there we go. Charles, the president of Hedera, says, "As longstanding contributors to the Linux Foundation Hyperledger, Hedera is excited about the launch of LF Decentralized Trust, which is broader and more inclusive, firmly supporting the foundation of open source, transparency, and meritocracy. We are united in our commitment to fostering the adoption of decentralized technologies. We applaud the efforts of the Linux Foundation to form the Decentralized Trust Project and look forward to driving more engagement from our own ecosystem." So when this news came out, immediately, again, a few things come to mind for folks in the ecosystem, which is, okay, when you look at the Linux Foundation and you look at how they're formed and how they operate, you start to look at Hedera and some of the issues we've been talking about over the last few weeks, and you start to go, well, there's a really interesting model for this kind of stuff. Could Hedera be more similar to the Linux Foundation? Could that kind of open source, transparent approach and structure, could that in turn be applied to the Hedera ecosystem itself? And that's also an interesting thing. So all in all, it's great to see Hedera involved in that. And I'm hoping that through Hedera's involvement with the Linux Foundation in this way, I hope that starts to really rub off on our ecosystem. And I've had conversations with a few people at Swirlds, and Andrew Aikens. Andrew Aikens is the Chief Open Source Officer at Swirlds Labs, really kind of spearheading some of the open source initiatives as well. And it's really good to see that kind of stuff. I met him in Denver recently, or not recently. Geez, time flies. I met him in Denver in February. And had a quick chat, but yeah, I think that it's great to see the open source conversation front and center with Hedera, because like what we're really talking about when we talk about like the change that we want to see in Hedera and the broader ecosystem is a lot of that is the ethos of open source software development, foundations, all those different types of things. So again, good to see. And I hope that that kind of rubs